Welcome to your Community Payback Induction. Firstly, can everyone please make sure that their mobile phones are switched off? If a mobile phone is used during this session, the individual responsible will be asked to leave. During the course of this presentation, we will cover the type of work you can expect to undertake, what education, training and employment initiatives are available to you, the rules and regulations that you will have to adhere to whilst undertaking Community Payback, what you need to do if you fail to attend for any of your appointments, and finally, we will finish with some essential health and safety information. Community Payback placement coordinators will allocate you to a suitable work placement. To decide where you will be working, we take your current and previous offences into account, as well as any health problems or personal situations that you may have. If you have not shared any important information regarding any health issues or medication you are taking, please speak to an officer about this at the end of this briefing. You may be deemed suitable to undertake Community Payback in one of our supervised work teams. For example, you could be allocated to a group undertaking gardening, groundwork, painting and decorating, graffiti removal, litter picking, or site clearance. You may be deemed suitable to undertake work in one of our individual placements, working in a charitable organisation or with one of our beneficiaries. Employment, training and education opportunities are available in your area whilst undertaking your order. This may include contact with an ETE advisor, completion of qualifications, support in preparing a CV, completing online training and applying for jobs. You may be entitled to use some of your unpaid work hours to attend ETE input. If you are interested in accessing ETE opportunities, please speak to a member of staff after this briefing. Whilst working on Community Payback, you must follow the rules and regulations as specified in your Community Payback contract. The main points you need to be aware of are as follows. Be on time. You must arrive on time for all of your Community Payback appointments. If you arrive late, you will not be allowed to work and your supervising officer will be informed so that enforcement action can be taken. No mobile phones or electronic equipment. Mobile phones must be turned off from the time you report for Community Payback until the time you are dismissed at the end of the working day. Anyone who uses their phone will be sent off-site and their supervising officer informed so that enforcement action can be taken. If you have any specific problems in relation to use of your mobile phone, please speak to the duty officer or supervisor at the start of your working day. These instructions also apply to all other personal electronic equipment, such as iPods, MP3 players and radios. Drug and alcohol use. When you report for Community Payback, you must not attend under the influence of drugs or alcohol. If Community Payback staff suspect that you are, you will be sent off-site and your supervising officer informed so that enforcement action can be taken. Smoking. Smoking breaks will only be permitted on work sites if deemed lawful and appropriate by your supervisor. Appropriate dress. Whilst undertaking Community Payback, you must arrive for work appropriately dressed. You are not permitted to wear shorts. This is a health and safety requirement. Do not wear your best clothes or bring anything of value. Community Payback cannot accept responsibility for loss or damage for personal items or clothing. Not leaving the site or going to the shops. From the time you report for Community Payback until the time you are dismissed, you will not be allowed to leave the site. This includes not leaving to go to the shops or cafes. You must ensure that you bring enough food to last you all day. It is not permitted to have food delivered to Community Payback work sites. If you have any religious or cultural requirements that need to be taken into consideration, please speak to a member of staff after this briefing. Mutual respect. Whilst working on Community Payback, you must behave respectfully and responsibly towards everyone. Discriminatory language or behaviour will not be tolerated. If you undertake activities that put yourself or others at risk, fail to follow your supervisor's instructions, or treat anyone with disrespect, you will be sent off site. Community Payback will inform your supervising officer and enforcement action will be taken. Completing your order. You may be instructed to report on more than one day each week, so you can complete your order as soon as possible. Personal circumstances will be taken into consideration. Non-attendance. If you are ill or cannot attend Community Payback for whatever reason, you will need to make contact with the probation service as soon as possible. If you are allocated to an individual placement, you must phone your placement as well. Your supervising officer will request evidence to justify your absence. If you fail to attend, you will be sent a warning letter, asking for evidence or an acceptable explanation. Following 2 missed appointments where you have not provided acceptable evidence for your absence, your supervising officer will return you to court for breach of your order. You can also be returned to court if you fail to adhere to other Community Payback rules and regulations. Breaching your community order could result in the court imposing additional Community Payback hours, adding additional requirements such as a curfew, or even imposing a custodial sentence. If you are deemed to have broken any Community Payback rules and regulations, you can be sent off your work site and will only receive the hours worked up to that point. Health and safety. Community Payback takes health and safety very seriously. You may have to use potentially dangerous equipment, work in hazardous areas, or carry heavy loads. Whatever activity you are asked to do, you must follow your supervisor's instructions at all times. This is not just for your own safety, but also the safety of your work colleagues, your supervisor, and the general public. Your supervisor will be watching to make sure you follow the correct safety procedures. If you fail to follow these procedures, it could result in you being asked to leave the work site and enforcement action being taken. PPE. Whilst undertaking Community Payback, your safety is a priority. You must wear any personal protective equipment that is specified by your supervisor, including safety boots, goggles, high visibility vests and masks. Tools and equipment. Once on site, your supervisor will explain how to use each piece of equipment safely and correctly. Once you have received this instruction, you will then be asked to sign a form confirming that you have been given instruction by your supervisor and that you understand these instructions. You will also be told what personal protective equipment you must wear whilst using these items. You could be asked to use a wide variety of tools and equipment, such as mowers, strimmers or shears, to name a few. Full instruction must be given by your supervisor before you use any tool or equipment. Seatbelt. It is a legal requirement for all passengers of any vehicle, including probation service vehicles, to wear seatbelts. Refusal to wear seatbelts will result in you being asked to leave the site, and your supervising officer will be informed. Manual handling. You may find yourself having to lift or carry something large or heavy in the course of your unpaid work. This is known as manual handling. The legal definition of manual handling includes transporting or supporting a load, including the lifting, putting down, pushing, pulling, carrying or moving of the load by hand or bodily force. Hazardous manual handling should be avoided wherever possible, and where it isn't, risk assessments should be undertaken and reasonable care taken to reduce the risk of injury. Your supervisor will risk assess situations where manual handling is required. The consequences of poor manual handling are simple. You could get hurt. It might not be as sudden as putting your back out, but there are many different ways you can damage your spine. Damage can also occur to your muscles, joints and tendons if you are not careful when undertaking manual handling. If you have to lift something by hand, there are some basic techniques to follow. Think before handling. Before you lift the object, think about the handling and plan the activity. Adopt a stable position. Make sure you are standing with a balanced posture. Your feet should be apart with one leg slightly forward of the other to maintain balance. If the object is on the ground, position your feet either side of the load. You should be prepared to move your feet as you lift to maintain stability. Ensure a good hold on the load. You will need to get a good hold of the object, ideally keeping it as close to your waist as possible whilst lifting. This may be better than gripping it tightly with just your hands. If you can, keep the heaviest part of the load closest to your body to reduce the stress on your shoulders, arms and back. A good posture means having a slight bend of the back, hips and knees at the start of the lift. Avoid fully bending over or squatting. Do not flex or bend your back further while lifting. This is usually caused by straightening your legs too soon. As you start to lift, use your thighs to power up rather than your back. Avoid twisting your back or leaning sideways, especially while your back is bent. Keep your shoulders level and facing in the same direction as your hips. It's better to turn using your feet rather than twisting and lifting at the same time. Keep your head up when handling. Once the load is secure, look ahead as you walk, not down, and maintain a good posture. Move smoothly. Try to keep your movement smooth. Do not jerk or snatch the load, as this can make it harder to keep control of the object and may increase the risk of injury. Don't lift or handle more than you can easily manage. There is a difference between what people are able to lift and what they can safely lift. Put down, then adjust. If you need to precisely position the load, put it down first, then slide it into the desired position. Remember, think before handling, adopt a stable position, have a slight bend of the back, hips and knees at the start of the lift, avoid twisting your back or leaning sideways, especially while your back is bent, keep your head up when handling, move smoothly, don't lift or handle more than you can easily manage, and put down, then adjust.